Hey guys, Adrian here from DigitalDojos, and today I want to talk to you guys about Motorola's surprising announcement of Project Ara. Project Ara is an announcement behind their modular phone that is actually very similar to the concept of phone blocks. If you guys saw this video that's been kind of viral for a while, I don't know how long it's been around, for a couple weeks, months at least maybe. Phone blocks concept, is an interesting thing because a lot of people advocated it, a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon to support it, even people who weren't really necessarily into technology, because it really is a cool concept. It's the concept behind a modular phone, essentially a phone that you can hot swap parts, a forever phone as they entail, or as they describe it. A phone that you can hot swap parts depending on your needs, and if something gets damaged, rather than having to replace your whole phone, you simply swap out that part. So it's very much adapting that of the green space of technology. So for example, if you want a better camera, you simply take that block out, put a better camera. If you want better battery life, you can hot swap parts and swap around parts for a bigger battery. If your screen breaks, rather than buy a whole new phone or get somebody to replace the screen, you simply just pop the screen out of the block and you put a new one in and you're good to go. It would all be based on a center board and then these parts that get built around it like blocks. So that's the concept behind this. Now, Motorola just recently announced, whether it's a coincidence or not, that they've been working on something very similar like this for a year. So they just collaborated with that of Dave Hackens, the guy who's behind phone blocks, to kind of collaborate and bring this thing to life, this concept to life. So you can see Dave Hackens' official video on this. He talks about partnering up with Motorola and how he still wants to stay independent and he's still accepting donations, all that sort of stuff. It's a very interesting concept. Project Ara, they showed some designs, these images I'm going to put up here, and they're releasing a modular development kit come this winter for people who want to mess around with it, a very prototype sort of device, and the top 100 most used users get like a discount on the phone once it's released. But that's the thing, it is still very much a concept. Now it's interesting because they have the backing of Motorola and Google, sort of like they have much deeper pockets to make this happen. And smarter, they're definitely a smart team and all that. But I think it's still a very much so a concept, much like I saw with phone blocks. And for a couple of reasons, that's why I wanted to shed some light on this. It looks like a really awesome idea. And the fact that in a generation where we have phones typically for 2 years, you would have this phone for more and you could just hot swap parts and it'd still feel sort of brand new. It's definitely an innovative step in a market that hasn't been innovated in a while. Whether it is because just the hardware limitations and stuff like that. Right now we're seeing incremental upgrades, whether it's Samsung or whether it is iPhone. We're still seeing sort of incremental upgrades. Nothing really super raising the bar. And this would be obviously something that would do that. But again, I really think this isn't something you're going to see whether it's a year from now or a couple years. It's just something it's very prototype A. It's very stage one. It needs a lot to even be polished and even be plausible to release. It reminds me of a Nokia concept a while back. I don't remember the name, but I think it was the Morph or something like that. I think it was a Nokia Morph, where you can kind of morph your phone around. It was made out of transparent material. Yeah, that never really came to fruition. And the same idea with this. This isn't the science behind it would be that it was use an endoskeleton body and use molecular parts so that you can easily just hot swap the hardware from it. But there's a couple reasons I think technically and business point why I think this wouldn't be possible. From the technical aspect, people talk a lot about, well, if these parts are going to be hot swappable, and they're going to make them into these little blocks that you can hot swap, that's going to take a toll on hardware. And the fact that if you're like hot swapping a CPU, if you're hot swapping anything, it's hardware isn't usually, for the most part, pulled out and stuff like that, for the most part, like in our regular phones. Also, the fact that phones in this generation, if you've looked inside an iPhone, I've used to repair iPhones and iPods, any Android phone, it's amazing how much they cram into these small profiles. And the reason they're able to do that, I should say, is because of this manufacturing on these small, tiny logic boards, the way they cram everything in. Now, doing it part by part would actually create more space. If you had a center board and then you had these other parts that you had to connect around and some being bigger than others, it actually would make the phone profile a little bit bulkier and stuff like that. And not only that, they think to manufacturing wise, to get parts from all these different companies, and then you're still, the cost of it would be either you're going to sacrifice, if you're going to make it cheaper, you're going to sacrifice cheaper parts, slower parts, and all of that. There's a lot of technical stuff that goes into it. because their ideas behind you can get like a faster CPU, you can have all these different CPUs you can buy, you can have all these different cameras, you can buy batteries, so on and so forth, different screens from different manufacturers, all of this stuff. So it's a lot of signing a lot of companies on board to even make this happen, and then the whole technical aspect of making it happen. Not only that, is it going to be durable to water damage? Like these phones that we have now, like our iPhones, etc., they're encased, they're all one, usually like this is a sort of unibody material. With hot swappable parts, you got to think that there's going to be possibilities of leaks, or is it completely weather sealed? You got to take those technical aspects into account. And just the fact, like, if you drop something, like, I mean, the durability of this, it won't be as much if there are parts that you can just easily detach. Going further into the business aspect of this is a really interesting argument I've heard, and something I thought. It just, to get manufacturers on board for something like this is going to be really interesting, because right now the way businesses work, especially technology businesses, we all build around that of planned obsolescence. Even if we have the technology, even if we have the ability to throw stuff in phones, they kind of wait for the next generation because that makes them more money. That's a business's goal, to make more money in the long run. So for example, whether or not the latest iPads were able to have Touch ID in them, I don't know for sure, but Apple probably would have held off even if it was 100% possible, just because that gives them something to put in next year's model. And Apple isn't the only one who does this. All sort of technology companies do this. It's been around for a while. It's been a business, not model, I guess a business, model in a sense, that it's called planned obsolescence. We planned for the future generation so that we can make more money and we can keep on releasing new things. That's why the big corporations, I think, wouldn't be so gung-ho for a thing like Project Ara. Also the fact that if you're trying to get manufacturers on board where you're selling different manufacturers' parts, like usually you have one chip and this one manufacturer is going to develop this chip for that phone. That's it, unless there's a faster version of the phone. But this, you'd have to get all different sorts of manufacturers on. I think that's going to kind of clash heads in terms of business, because I just think when it comes down to it, in the grand scheme of things, I think not everybody's ready for a forever phone. As of right now, what I hear with people, whether they use iPhones or Android phones, and the busier I get and stuff like that, you tend to want things that just work. And I'm not saying the Ara won't work. I'm not saying it's not going to be, foolproof, but people just kind of want things that work. They don't want to have to finagle with things. The same with their computer. Some people don't want to build their computer. Some people don't want to, I mean, for the most part, you can compare that, I think, in a sense, to the computer. You can create a computer. You can build a computer. It may be cheaper, and you can get better parts, and then if anything breaks, you can simply swap it out for the fraction, rather than you buying a whole new computer or even taking it to a tech repair or something like that. But again, people don't want to have to deal with that sort of thing. People just want things that, they can rely on to check email, to make phone calls, to use their applications, whatever it may be. So I think as of right now, the market, it's a really awesome concept. It's a really awesome idea. It's a really great step forward in terms of technology. I think the mass consumer isn't just ready for a phone like this yet. Nonetheless, I will track it. I will write about it. So if any other further development down the line comes out about Project Ara, you will definitely be hearing about it. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this modular phone. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a phone that you would want? Do you think this is something that you wouldn't get tired of if you've had it for like 3 or 4 years? If you can keep on hot swapping the hardware, maybe change the design a little bit, get a better screen. Do you think you would ever get tired of it? I'm guessing this would run Android because it's built off of Motorola, and just in general, the big operating systems right now on mobile-wise are Android and iOS, and this is definitely not going to be running iOS. So what do you guys think? Love to hear your feedback, your thoughts below, and I will catch you all in the next video.